Welcome. I'm Kevin Miller. This is a podcast to elevate your experience of life, an experience you're creating. In this episode, how to walk your way into more well-being. The episode's focused on connecting with our body and our soul through walking in this sense. Yeah, literally walking. Sounds so basic, but it's something I've had zero focus on my entire life in regards to my well-being. I looked at walking as a waste of time. I can get there quicker running or riding or taking a car. But now I'm devoting near a third of my exercise time to walking. I'm about to go on a 2.5 mile walk with 45 pounds on my back right now. So my guest to talk about this is Michael Easter, who I've known about since 2021 when he published a book called The Comfort Crisis. In my peer group of people pursuing wellness, that book immediately became a mainstay, and I resonated with the message myself so much because I continue to question that all of our modern day conveniences, are they really helping us? I really feel like they're hurting us. And that's what Michael showcased in The Comfort Crisis with a lot of research and experimentation. In that book, he really helped put rucking on the map as well. Well, rucking is simply walking while carrying weights. It's well known of in the military, but now has become or is becoming commonplace amongst us civilians. So here we discuss the physiological and psychological benefits of not only walking with weights, but even just simply walking in general. I feel that through walking different for me than running or mountain biking or other activities, I'm connecting with me more and possibly benefiting my body even more so with this kind of low key exercise than all my big extreme athletic pursuits. So Michael's brand new book about this is called Walk with Weight, the definitive guide to rucking. And you'll hear him even say that they discuss, do we need a whole book about this? But if you read it, he is, I think, such a great journalist and storyteller, and he tells these concepts through real life experiences that really drive the idea home, for me at least. Michael Easter, he's just built a remarkable career traveling the world in search of practical ideas that help people live healthier, happier, and more remarkable lives. I tune into his blog every week. It's called 2%, as do hundreds of thousands of other people as well, to hear his latest findings from his extensive research and his personal experimenting. So coming up next, my conversation with Michael Easter around walking and walking with weights and generally just improving our overall well-being. So let's elevate our experience today. Michael, I have been following you and the concept since the Comfort Crisis came out. Just the premise means a lot to me, and even your blog focal point that, 2%, that only 2% of as you say on the blog, it turns out that only 2% of people will do the harder thing that has a greater long-term benefit if there is an easier option. I've just been enamored with that, watching myself. And it's so difficult I find myself struggling to do the harder thing when it's kind of artificial. You don't have to, the elevator's right there, but there's the stairs, and it's just so countercultural. And I find myself questioning, do you find that some of our biggest hurdles with this is just I don't know if it's cultural pressure, but just the cultural norms?
I think I would put it more in the frame of evolutionary norms, let's say. So the reason that humans do the next easiest, most comfortable thing is because for literally all of time, that always made sense. Right? You didn't want to move any more than you absolutely had to. You didn't want to do the hard thing because life was hard and you're trying to save energy, you're trying to save calories. And then very recently in the grand scheme of time and space, like within the last 100 years, we engineered our world for comfort in so many different ways, where we have escalators instead of stairs, where we can get our food not from having to go farm it, but from literally a delivery app. So on and so forth, insert a million other examples. And that drive we have to do the next easy, comfortable thing backfires. And so this is why you see that stat. Only 2% of people will do the slightly harder thing when there's an easier option available. So I like to say it's not people's fault. It's kind of how we're wired, but it is your problem to solve. Because in a very easy world, if you keep doing the easy thing, you'll tend to rack up some health problems in the long term. And I think that's at kind of the root of a lot of the big societal health and even mental health issues that people face.
Well, reading your book, the new one, Walking with Weight, just got the concept on my mind a lot more. Here's the first thing that I realized, Michael. I go to the local grocery store, rode my bike over there with my little basket on the back, and went in and had never thought about what I realized after reading your book. And I'm just thinking about all this kind of stuff. I go in and I kept thinking the baskets, the little baskets that you used to be able to pick up at the front, I just kept thinking they must just be gone. Like, where do they keep placing them? And so I'd grab the little grocery cart. And then it dawned on me, there are no baskets. They're not here anymore. We had the big grocery cart. Then you used to have the little basket. Now you don't have the basket. They replaced it with the little cart. So I don't have to carry anything. Again, back to the cultural norms. I didn't even get it. So here I am thinking I'm a comfort crisisite. I'm a 2%er. And it just didn't occur to me, just like you stop thinking about the fact that we actually used to close the car doors. Now you just push a button or it does it by itself. We've taken away honestly, I try to think about my life. I could kind of take away every single manual effort option there is. And if there is one that I have to do, it's easy to hire it out. And so, again, it just feels like it's kind of crept in there. We didn't mean to necessarily. It came from a good premise, but oh my gosh, now we're at the place where we just don't have to get out of bed. And I guess, as you would say, it's maybe it's an exaggeration, but it's kind of killing us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, I will say it is linked. I mean, I would argue that the fact that our world has become so physically easy is the main driver of the diseases that now kill us.
Yeah.
Heart disease, certain cancers, definitely diabetes. Because in the past, you had to put in physical effort to live. Even getting from point A to point B, like people were walking everywhere effectively, or you rode a horse, but even that's like not that easy. And it's just, to your point, it's been this sort of slow creep into our lives, and it happens subtly. So you don't notice the shift, but it's like a new comfort comes in. You're just like, oh yeah, you just kind of accept it, adapt to it. Then the next one, and you keep doing that for about 100 years, and you can start to understand why the average person is only walking something like 4,000 steps a day, when in the past we used to walk about 20,000 on average. And that causes some problems. But to bring it back to your comment about the basket. So the book that I recently did, Walk with Weight, it basically makes a case for carrying weight and why it is so important for human health and fitness and longevity and even mindset. So when you look at human beings and what we are physically good at, we are good at basically two things compared to every other animal. Like most other animals, way more athletic than us, way faster than us. They can jump higher. They can climb higher. They can outrun us in most scenarios. But humans are good at two things. And one is running long distances in the heat. It only applies to the heat. So really good at running long distances. And the second, and this is what the book is based on, is that we are the only mammal that can carry weight for distance. So 6 million years ago, we started walking on 2 feet. It allowed us to cover much longer distances, but also freed up our hands. So we have these free hands. We're like, oh, what should we do with them? Oh, we can like pick up this stuff on the ground and like move it to a new territory and build things and explore the world with our hands. And the act of carrying weight for distance, it really physically shaped us into who we are. I mean, we are like literally born to do it. And yet, to your experience in the grocery store, we no longer do it. And that was like carrying weight was like the single physical activity that people did most often for millions of years. And then, boom, we engineer it out. And I think that we are suffering the consequences, because when you look at the benefits of walking with weight, whether you are, in the book, I talk about Rucking, which is putting weight in a backpack and going for a walk, whether you're just carrying the grocery basket, whether you're carrying stuff around your house, whatever it might be. The list of benefits that it delivers are amazing because you are covering ground, which is a cardiovascular activity, but you're also having to use your muscles to carry things, right? So you're kind of getting this 2-in-1 strength and endurance combination. And it's also a lot safer than running. So it kind of can compare to running, calorie burn, endurance wise in a lot of ways, but much safer. Like most people who run will eventually get an injury that sidelines them for some amount of time, but that just doesn't happen with walking with weight, assuming that you aren't carrying some insanely heavy load, like 100 pounds in a backpack or something.
Okay, I'm going to get into the walking specifically because I've been doing it. So I'm eager to. I still on this 2%. I was just reviewing all your stuff and looking at the 2% concept. And when you look, it got me thinking about the analog life as opposed to digital life. Like, how much can I analog my life? How much can I remove the conveniences and just do it myself? I don't care if it's just open the garage door without a garage door opener. I wish I had manual cranks on the windows of my car. I just sold my last old Jeep that had that, actually.
No, shouldn't have done that.
But how can I do that? But if you look at your life, literally you, Michael, I mean, would you say if we do a videotape of your daily life, how much differently have you oriented your life to accommodate these harder things than you would have if you didn't have this mindset, if you were just living the normal concept?
Yeah, I think a lot. And I think the way I frame it is, if I already have to do something, but I can make it a little bit harder and get a bunch of secondary benefits from making it harder, I'm going to take that decision every time. That's effectively the 2% mindset. So I'll give you a good example. And it doesn't apply to this because we're using video cameras. But if I have a call for work, I go, okay, I'm going to have a half-hour phone call scheduled. Now I could sit in my office and take that call, or I could pop in my headphones and I could go out for a walk. And if I wanted to make it a little bit harder, I could throw on a backpack with some weight on it, right? So that's like, I got to take the call, but I've done this thing that makes it a little harder. I'm sort of adding this challenge into it. And if you can take that idea, that 2% mindset, how can I make this just a little bit harder to get these larger benefits? And you can start to find ways to apply that across your day. The benefits stack up very quickly. And I mean, there's a lot of evidence that suggests this, like studies from the Mayo Clinic that find that when people just move more throughout the day, you can burn an extra up to 1,000 calories in a day. Like, that's huge. And that's not from like, oh, I went to the gym and I ran on the treadmill for 2 hours. It's like, no, I just was like, yeah, I took a call walking around my neighborhood. I had to go to the grocery store. I parked in the farthest spot away. And when I got there, I carried my groceries in the basket, which are, as we spoke about, increasingly disappearing, unfortunately. I think that's how you win in modern life. Because I think one of the issues with how we view physical activity is that we've created this thing called exercise. And exercise is this separate, distinct time from my normal life where I am going to be physically active. So it's like, I'm lazy all day. And then, but I'm going to do, at the gym for 30 minutes, and I'm going to go on the elliptical or whatever it is. And then I go back to being lazy. That's not how humans are designed to move, right? Like, we evolved to just be physically active all day, moving around. That's the best thing we can do for our health. And so I think trying to think about, I'm not saying the gym is bad. People should do that 30-minute workout. But what I am saying is to look at the other 23 and a half hours. We'll call it 15 and a half because you got to sleep 8 hours, and how you're living, and how can I add a little more activity into that? How can I find ways to strip away some of the comforts that, while nice, might be harming me in the long run? So an easy way to apply this is to physical activity. But in my 2% newsletter, I mean, I interpret it a lot of different ways. Mental health, how are you paying your attention? What kind of conversations are you having with the people you love? Are you talking about the weather and sports, or are you going to make it a little bit uncomfortable and go deeper and, really kind of unpeel the layers?
Okay. So with this concept, I have been more conceptualized in how I can, again, kind of a goofy term, but in my own vernacular, analog my life. What can I do? And seeing that the efficiencies, I've done all these efficiencies and taken away, as you said, the opportunity for physical movement. I have a washer and dryer. Now I don't have a stream to go down and wash my clothes, but dryer. And I thought, okay. So it strung a huge, line out. I use climbing rope in my yard, tree to tree
Awesome.
to tree.
Very Colorado.
Very Colorado. Well, but I'm going out and I'm first off thinking just not be a consumer, not use electricity, not use a dryer, and I'll just go out and hang them out there. And then again, reading your book, I thought, well, wait a minute. I'm also taking like 20 minutes and I'm walking around the yard and hanging stuff up and I can feel it in my shoulders. And just, again, what a benefit. Same thing with, going to the grocery store that's however long away and I just drive there. Well, how about if I ride my bike or I run and get 1.5 miles or 3 miles? But it's just such a shift. Aside from the fact that up here in my little mountain town, I'm afraid that my friends are going to think I'm a vagrant or my car broke down because I'm actually just walking with a box or a basket. It's so, again, you help me see how we've gotten to this place of that's what the first part of the book you made such a good case for. Here's the span of time. We have always carried stuff. It's this little bitty chunk that we're in right now that all of a sudden we don't. And as you said, and we're seeing the consequences of this sedentary, lazy life that now we go and artificially manufacture exercise, which I do. I've got weights. I've got all this stuff here. I've got like a full workout room in my house.
Same here.
And I'm almost trying to see like how little can I use it by doing these extra things. But I guess that's it. You brought to light how countercultural it is, which I guess is why you have the 2%. I mean, we really got to readjust and reorient ourselves around the opportunities we have to do non-exercise exercise, not artificially simulate it. We can do stuff around the house. Fair?
Yeah. You can do stuff around the house. And there's really interesting literature, scientific studies from comparing how many fewer calories people started burning once appliances were adopted in mass. So things like, washing machines, dryers, dishwashers, all that stuff. And it's a couple hundred calories a day. I mean, that's equivalent to like a 2-mile run, basically, and so you start to see that adopted all across the country. And it kind of explains why, not to mention we now have way more access to junk food. It's like this pairing of junk food and like not moving around a lot. You start to understand why more than 70% of the country is overweight or obese now. And so, a big part of my message is I'm not saying any of these things are bad. Like, they're great, right? It's awesome to not have to always hand wash your clothes, to not have to hand wash and dry the dishes every time. That's great. But what I am saying is, okay, it's nice to have those, but like, how can we push back a little bit as much as we can so we don't fall into this trap that is ultimately harming us in the long run? And I think you also learn something about yourself in the process and what you can do and what you can endure. And I think it also, take the example of you going, all right, I'm going to walk to the grocery store, or I'm going to ride my bike. I think it also gives you time where you are removed from the sort of machine that we live in now, where you're always attached to email. If you're in your car, you're like, got to stream this, got to stream that, whatever it might be. I think it gives you time to sort of let your thoughts wander and reset. And I think that can be really good for mental health. Not to mention you're getting outside as you're doing that. Like, that's a great thing. Plenty of research shows that being outside is one of the best things you can do for your mental health. And so you're getting all these like really good things as that is occurring. It's not just, it's the physical, it's the mental, it's many things.
I would say I am more present when I am not just taking advantage of all the efficiencies and participating myself. Michael, I was thinking about, I recently watched I can't even remember what it was, some dystopian film. with the kids and realizing how many of those we have, these shows and movies of these dystopian futures where something happens and we're kind of back to square one. We don't have electricity. We're going and fetching water. We're hunting and gathering. We're doing these things and wondering, and this goes to your comfort crisis, that not only are you showing the benefit, but is there kind of this innate piece of us that would almost wish we would go back to that? Like, we're using all these conveniences, but are we really getting joy? I've been really focused since all the AI stuff, especially. We look at all the technology and look at AI and go, it's going to make life better. Can we, cure cancer with AI? Maybe so. Would that be better? Maybe so. But overall, are all these conveniences, are all these efficiencies, are they making life better? I feel like it's just making life faster. Like maybe we're having more anxiety.
Definitely makes life faster. I will say that if you look at mental health data,
Yeah,
that has gotten worse over time, for sure. There's
totally.
a variety of reasons for that. I mean, it's not as simple as a one-to-one, so I'm not saying that, but it's definitely a big factor. What I will say too is that when you look at what people value and what they get meaning from and what they really appreciate in life, which makes them feel grateful, alive, it's doing things that have some element of challenge.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't evolve to really appreciate things that are just given to us freely that took no effort. We evolved to really, really appreciate and love things that took somewhat of a struggle. And so I think if you just apply that thinking to modern life, it's like, well, now so much less stuff is a struggle. So I think that kind of explains some of the issues that people are having in modern life with mental health. Because I mean, it's just this nice big curve of, depression, anxiety, all these different things.
I reminded myself, Donald Miller, the author Donald Miller, and he studying movies, good movies. And the crux of the consummate movie is a character who wants something and overcomes conflict to get it. Challenge. Yeah. We want challenge and we don't have it. I also thought next week I go to a podcast convention and they're inducting my dad into the Podcast Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
Now he died 2 years ago. So Dave Ramsey is actually presenting it. Dave's an old family friend, and I'm going to be receiving it for him. But I thought of, Dave, the financial guru. One of his lines has always been, if you'll live like no one else now, you can live like no one else later. But living like no one else now, financially, he's talking, is not spending what you don't have, not doing the normal purchasing, but saving money and getting out of debt.
Yeah.
I found myself thinking about just lifestyle with you. Same thing. If you'll live like no one else, you can live like no one else. If you will not do all the efficiencies, not do the lazy all day, and then a little bit of exercise, but incorporate this in your life, the cumulative effect of those little deposits, like saving money, is dramatic when we're looking at, here we are so focused on lifespan or health span. And man, there's these little things that we can do, but it requires us to step out of the norm. And I wonder how many people, it's just uncomfortable. Really? I'm going to go walk to the grocery store. Yeah. Everybody's going to think that I lost my car or something. Can I do?
Yeah.
But you're elevating it. I would say that is that an aspect, not only the knowledge, but elevating the status in a way of, do it yourself. Don't use the conveniences.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's like with my newsletter, which is on Substack. I mean, we've kind of built this tribe of people who are like, they support each other in this idea. We're okay being the weird ones because we're going to probably live longer and prosper more and also just have more interesting lives if we follow this 2% idea. Make things, do quirky things. I mean, you only live once. Why do you got to be like everyone else? Be the weird person. That's far more interesting. Not to mention, you'll get healthier in the process. And Dave's story, I mean, I would say Dave's story kind of falls back into what I was saying about, we grow and we learn from challenges because, as my understanding, he's a friend as well, is that he's made a ton of money when he was young and then he lost it all.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And he had to go through that to really learn that lesson. And then he built back up into what he is now, which is much better version probably of himself. And I can probably tell you his portfolio is a little better too.
It is, man. Yeah, funny story on that. It was right after his bankruptcy that I met him.
Oh, really?
We met him through church, and my wife and I babysat his kids when they were little. That's how we got to know Dave, and that was back when he lived in the cheap seats of Nashville, and now he owns a mountain in Nashville, or a hill at least.
As you do.
It's different. Well, I started thinking, Michael, about my own life. Like, what are the things I can cut out? Just again, those things. How about if I hide the remote and we actually have to stand up and, change the channels on TV, which of course, smart TVs today, you can't even do that. But, open the garage door by hand. And I thought about the Roomba that we use to clean, 2,000 feet of the downstairs concrete. What if I sweep it, and not use the dumb thing? Actually, it broke. So I'm not going to fix it. And we're going to sweep the thing. How can today, I told you we got about a foot of snow, and how much of that can I just hand shovel and not, use a snowblower or hire somebody? That's what got me at some point, is thinking about the things that we do. Hire somebody to shovel the snow, hire somebody to mow the yard, hire somebody to clean the pool. We go down the road, and then we get in the car, drive to the fitness center, and then lift these weights that accomplish nothing. It's nonsensical, but it's just the norm. So I'm going to keep playing with this.
Yeah, I think my message, and I think analog life is a great way to put it. I mean, my message is just get creative. Get creative. Find ways to do this and find ways to apply it that stick. And if you do it for long enough, your life will improve. You'll be fitter. It'll change your mindset. A lot of different good things.
So let's talk about walking. That's been new to me. So I come from a background, I was a pro cyclist for a long time, and went from that to running and making that my focal point. And those are my joys, riding and running. And I like to go fast. I dig the adrenaline and whatnot. And then realize, okay, I probably should do some resistance training, because I'm going to be one of those old guys who's 90 and he's shuffling along running, but he can't bend down to pick up a quarter. And so got the workout room, in my house, and I'm doing that. But then walking, man, I so struggled, so boring. I thought, how can I be possibly accomplishing anything walking? But trying to do that more. And then you come along. So one of my best friends, he's been walking with weights for about 2 years, and I just didn't get on the show for that. So they send me literally the galley copy of your book, I don't know, a couple months ago. And I took that and thought, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. So went to buy them. Here's an interesting thing too. And I thought, gosh, I'm going to go spend, I don't know, it's like $300+ to buy, because I thought I'll get up to like 50 pounds or something like that. So I can really get up there, which I thought was dumb. I've got God knows how much weights of Olympic weights. So found a company that would allow me to put up to a 45-pound Olympic weight in the back. So that's what I've got. And I've been playing with doing the 45 pounds, or I've been doing a lot of the 25 pound or 35 pounds in my back, in the backpack, and then holding dumbbells, just 10 pounds. Blew me away how taxing it was. It never occurred to me. And then I thought, with all the exercise outlets I do, I kind of recalled when we go cut wood, and we'll cut logs, drag them, cut them, stack them, that about an hour of that wears my butt out. Now I can go ride or run for 2, 3, 4 hours, but and I correlated obviously that with your book. But the walking with the weight, I'm so impressed with how taxing a 2.5-mile walk with a little bit of hills and a 45-pound weight on my back kicks my butt right now. I mean, I hope to get, to where I'm stronger, but I'm so impressed. And I've been telling people that, like, you may not understand, because I didn't. My friend who's doing the walking that way, I just didn't give it that much credit. And to put that pack on and walking, because walking seems so subpar compared to my norms of endurance and efforts, and super impressed with how much it taxes me. So thank you for that to start with.
Yeah. I mean, that tracks with me. I think a lot. So for most people, I tell them, start with you went off into the deep end a little bit. That's fine. You got a pretty strong background in fitness, so you can handle it. I would say most people who are relatively new to it start with like 10% of your body weight, kind of ease in. But the reality is it's going to be hard no matter what, because it is a physical act that we just don't do anymore. As I said before, we've engineered carrying out of our life. So once you start to put weight on your muscles and skeletal system, and then you got to move it across the ground, your body is going, what in the heck are you asking me to do? But the reality is that for all of time, that's what humans did. I mean, this is like the most human physical activity you can do. So I tell people start with 10 pounds, or not 10 pounds, 10% of your body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you'd be 20 pounds. And then I usually recommend people just go out on whatever normal route you walk. If you're a walker, if you're not a walker, you don't do walks around your neighborhood, then just think of something that you're like, okay, that seems like I could reasonably do it. Then just load the pack. If you don't have a setup that you bought, I'm sure you have a backpack at home. Like everyone's got a backpack somewhere. Could be an outdoor bag, could be like, the backpack you had in college, whatever it is. And then just try to load it to the best of your abilities with something that weighs something that you have around the house. Could be like a bag of rice, could be dumbbells. If you use dumbbells, wrap them in a towel so you're not getting the steel jamming into your spine as you walk. And then just start walking. It's that easy. That's one of the things I love about it, is it's so simple. Throw on a backpack, go for a walk. And as you're doing that, like I said, you're getting some cardio because you're covering ground. Your heart rate's going to be a little higher than if you were not weighted. But you're also taxing your muscles. So you're going to be building some strength, especially one thing that's really interesting is that a lot of the weight ends up shifting to your core if you have a backpack. So you put the weight on your back, you bend over a little bit naturally, and your core starts to sort of pick up the slack to stabilize. So it's a really good core workout. And that's one reason why it helps a lot of people with back pain too. So if you have back pain, start light, try it. There's a guy up in Canada who's sort of considered the world's foremost expert on back health. His name's Stu McGill, and he uses rucking as a way to rehab backs with a lot of his patients. It's definitely helped mine. I mean, I definitely taxed my body with a lot of outdoor adventures and have taken some hit, but I've never really had a big injury. And I think this is one of the reasons. It's also really good for fat loss because you're burning calories as you're covering ground, doing an endurance act. But you're also telling your body with the weight on your back, hey, we're going to need some muscle. You're going to have to use this. And so it almost signals your body like, okay, if we're going to burn something here, let's burn fat. And I can tell you, for me, when I've done long outdoor expeditions through hikes, things like that, where I have to carry a backpack the whole time, I'll get home and I'll have lost, 10 to 20 pounds, but I've maintained all my muscle.
Yeah.
Like you're not shedding muscle. There's some studies that show it can actually help build muscle in some people. It kind of depends on your training level. But I think for most people who have a fitness history, what it'll do is it'll really help you melt a lot of fat. I mean, that worked I did this really long, I was like 45 days, this hike in southern Utah. And I got back and I was just, there was no fat on my frame at all. But I had maintained my skeletal muscle. And it was all just because your body's like, well, we need to keep some of this muscle because we're carrying all this crap all day. So let's get rid of that fat. That's not helping us at all.
A couple months ago, Michael, we had Nicholas Thompson on the show. He's the CEO of The Atlantic. And
the Atlantic guy, yeah.
Yeah. And his new book is The Running Ground. And it's, kind of a memoir around running and then just his personal life. He kind of joked about that, about how thin he is. He's a runner. Now, he did talk about how simple it is. You can go anywhere, take a pair of shoes, go travel. You can always go run. I thought, well, even more so, especially for those who think that they've got, injuries or whatnot and can't run. Dude, you can walk But yeah, with the weight that you can actually put on muscle mass as well. And to me, you talked about in the book too, what a great thing to do as couples and whatnot. I had a friend we were talking about this morning, and he said, yeah, there's so few things that he does with his wife. She can't run as fast as he does, or she doesn't ride bikes and whatever, but they can go walk. And now he can and this dude's doing like 50 pounds in his backpack, and she can do 10, and they're walking and they're talking. And I found that with me. Now I'm happy to check out from work and communication, but if I've got, I do a lot of WhatsApp messages with my mom, my brother, whatever, and I can put the pack on and go walk and listen. And if I'm not carrying dumbbells, I can then, hold my phone and respond. And I appreciate that I'm just walking, but holy smokes, I've got the weight on there, and helping my core, which with all the endurance stuff that I do, and even the weightlifting and whatever, arms and legs, I do not enjoy the core.
The core work is so boring. Oh my gosh.
So this is a great quote hack, I think, for core.
Yeah, it definitely helps strengthen your core. And a lot of back pain, and I will say 80% of people will experience back pain at some point in their life. Like, this is the most common pain. A lot of back pain is driven simply because our cores are so weak. And so when something happens, like, we don't have the strength to sort of stabilize our spine. And so this is like a really good way to kind of sneak in that really boring core work. Cause I'm like you, dude. It's like, I got to do planks at the end of this workout. I'm like, how many sets does it say? 3? Maybe I'll just do 1. 1 sounds much better because it's just so boring. But rucking has allowed me to, really maintain and build core strength without having to do that boring stuff on the ground. So I like it for that. And then following up about the relationship thing, that's another thing I love about walking with weight is when you are running with people, it's hard to get it right.
Yeah.
Right. Because if I'm running with Nick from the Atlantic, he's going to be running and we're running together. He's going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. This is like my warm up for the warm up pace. And I'm going to be like, I'm about to throw up. I'm not going to be able to talk.
Yeah.
Like, cause he's so elite at what he does. So it's hard to really do it together. But to your point about that couple, if I go on a walk with my wife, I can throw, whatever it is, 35, 45 pounds in the pack. She might take 15, and we'll walk and we'll talk. We're both getting a stimulus that is hard, that gives us a workout, but it's also not so hard that we can't have a deep conversation and connect. And we're doing it together. There's none of that like mismatch in fitness levels. You can apply that to anywhere. You apply it to your kids, to your mom, to whatever, and be able to connect with that time. And I think one of the people who really got me thinking about that angle, and I'd always done that with my wife, but John Deloney, who's also a Ramsey guy, their sort of in-house relationship expert, doctor, greatest guy in the world. He does that with his wife too. He's like, I would always struggle because I needed to work out, but I also needed to connect with my wife. And he's like, we go on these walks. I'm like, this is like, I should be working out. It's like I started throwing on a backpack and now I've got to work out and I'm hanging out with my wife. I've completed 2 missions in 1, and that's a win.
I am getting ready to go on this trip for the Podcast Hall of Fame thing. I'm going to take my backpack. And then was thinking, and you talk about this in the book, I'm thinking, okay, I can throw water bottles in there, or I can take something to throw. I'll be in Florida. I'll throw some sand in there or something out of the hotel, find a brick nearby, whatever it is. And it seems so simple. One of the things that I'm also giving focus to is my propensity to do higher intensity aspects, to ride. For me to ride slow is been riding fast all my life. And I love it. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush. And to run, man, I do enjoy running fast. And I am 55, and my propensity to always exercise at a high level, I'm concerned about my own cortisol and just when do I doing that every day, day in and day out. So this again, but then as I said, the walking feels so, I'm not saying it's fair, but just in my psyche, it's just like, seriously, I'm just walking. How can this be helping me? Putting the weight on, I'm literally, I mean, it's a harder effort. And yet I feel it's something that is probably maybe serving my core inner peace and my cortisol levels better. That I'm really taking heart with that as well.
That's been my experience too, is that I've a chronic, if I'm going to work out, I'm going to work out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go hard.
Yeah.
There's definitely benefits to going hard. Don't get me wrong. But I do think you need to pair that with lower intensity work, especially if you're exercising a lot. I'm exercising 6 days a week, probably, just for recovery, for building a big, broad endurance base. And to your point, walking with weight for me has done the same thing. It kind of gives me this low volume where I'm getting in this good endurance that isn't too, people might call it like zone 2, if you want to get dorky and scientific about it. It's that sort of like low level endurance where a lot of good things happen. But it's not so hard that you're burning yourself out. Like you can recover from it. You can do it all day. And then the pack adds that strength stimulus, which is going to shift into a little more fat burning. It's going to help with my muscles, going to help my core. It's going to help my posture. It's going to help all these different things. So to me, it's kind of one of those, one big thing is just to sort of set this up. It's like, why did I write this book in the first place? This book really came because I wrote the book, The Comfort Crisis. And for that book, I did this 30-day trip up into the Arctic.
Yeah.
And we were hunting up there. We were hunting caribou. And so we hunted caribou successfully. And afterwards, you have to pack it out. So it's like 120 pounds of caribou in my pack. I'm with 2 other guys. It's like the hardest thing I've ever done is hauling that caribou in my pack 5 miles through the tundra, which is, it's hilly. The ground is soft. It's like walking on sand dunes for 5 miles with 120 pounds on your back. And it's just the hardest thing ever. And it occurred to me, because I was familiar with this research on, you might know the book Born to Run, or there was a Nature study that preempted that book that humans evolved to run. It's like, we evolved to run so we could hunt. But it's like, well, what do you have to do after you hunt an animal? You have to carry that thing back to camp. Plenty of animals can run. No other animal can carry. This is like, no, we're actually born to carry. So I put that as a section in The Comfort Crisis. It's like one chapter at the end. I talk about that a little bit. I talk about rucking, 30 pages out of a 300-page book. And from that, a lot of people started taking up rucking. Talked about a lot of podcasts, talked to like New York Times about it, blah, blah, blah. Rucking starts to grow. And so my publisher was like, do you think there's enough interest in this thing for a book? And I was like, well, judging by all this stuff about it and all the questions I get, yeah, I think there probably is. And so that's what led to this book. And it's very different than, if anyone is familiar with my past 2 books, those are kind of like big narrative, big idea written through. This is much more a guidebook where I'm going to like walk you through some of the stories and the science, but then we're going to get very, very tactical about, okay, how do you actually do this thing? How do I start? How do I find gear? What's the best gear? How do I load the pack? What sort of shoes should I wear? I'm just answering the questions that I get most frequently on my 2% Substack, shot into my DMs on Instagram, whatever it might be, to basically tell people, here's why this thing is so important. Here's why humans are born to do it. Here's all the scientific evidence on its health benefits. And then here is exactly how you do it, whether you're just starting today or whether you've been doing it for 5 years and just want new tips and tricks to sort of level up. Like, we're just kind of giving you the whole deal in a very sort of guidebookish form. So different book for me, but it was definitely fun. And I think it's fun. One of the funny things is, so when you meet with publishers and you do a book, they're always like, the sales team will always be like, asking you questions, probing you, and they're like, can you really write a book about just walking with weight?
Mm-hmm.
I said, ma'am, there are like 10 magazines about running and thousands of books about running. Yeah, I think I can do one book about walking with weight.
Fair. I did. That was the first relation. Well, I mean, I thought about that with Comfort Crisis. So I'm a Born to Run fan. I'm one of those proselytes that had my own experience running and getting injured and then reading the book. Love the book. I actually heard that they were going to do a movie about it once. I thought it'd make a great movie. It was just entertaining book. I felt like that with Comfort Crisis. I feel like that with this one. You make such an intriguing case for, it was kind of a duh.
Yeah.
Again, like reading some of Dave Ramsey's old books, Financial Peace. You read it and go, gosh, duh, what are we thinking? Credit cards and debt and stuff. Where did we ever get to that? That's not the span of time. And so it made a great, the other book was it Breath? Nestor's book.
Yeah.
Book, yeah. Same thing. Coming at it from I love him coming from a journalist standpoint of like, hey, this is what I experienced, man. Now I did the research and pretty hard to refute. So, I'm recommending it to everybody. So awesome. I appreciate that.
I love it. And I'll also say like just to be clear, my message is not that people should only walk with weight. Not at all. I think people should lift weights. I think people should run. I think people should cycle. I think they should swim. I think they should do yoga. I think they should do anything else they want to do. My larger point is just that we don't carry anymore. And it is arguably, in my opinion, one of the most important things we can do for our health and wellness. So my argument is you need to add that in to the other things you're doing to sort of round out your overall fitness, will help with your mindset, all these different things.
Okay. I was literally going to ask you that for me. So again, I'm just at this point, I'm not competing in anything for them. I'll do a race here and there, but endurance, I do that. That's my joy. That's playtime for me is endurance. Don't enjoy the resistance stuff, but I do. And I mostly, push-ups, pull-ups, dips kind of stuff. And then I'll pick up the weights when I feel like I really should, but I don't enjoy it a whole lot. And I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, especially if I'm doing like 45 pounds and whatnot, I'm thinking, how much can I replace just for overall health, wellness, longevity, well-being for my structure, cardiovascular, your opinion, just me coming from that context, like how much are you rucking as opposed to some of those other things?
I would say rucking is my sort of foundation of everything. For me personally, I lift 2 days a week. Now, unlike you, so my background is I worked at Men's Health magazine for a long time. I was an editor there for 7 years or something like that. So I got really down the rabbit hole of strength stuff, not bodybuilder stuff. I was there when I never did CrossFit, but I was there when sort of that functional stuff was happening. So I've always liked lifting weights. So 2 days of that a week, I will ruck. This is where it gets complicated because I always throw the ruck on when I walk my dogs, and I walk my dogs daily. Oh. Now I won't use something super heavy. But if I was going to do like a dedicated ruck 2-3 days a week, and I'll try and hit a trail if I can. And then I'll do sometimes I'll ride a Zwift or something. I don't do much road cycling. I'll ride a Zwift one day a week. And then I'll trail run one day a week. And so, but that sort of leads me to another thing is that you may not have to do dedicated ruck sessions if you are the type of person who was just going to go on a walk every day, no matter. You were going to walk your dogs every day, no matter. Yeah. You were going to walk down to the grocery store, no matter. It's just like throw the ruck on and keep up with your other stuff. And that's just going to make you get way more from each of those steps that you were already going to take.
Context wise, because I was going to ask about how much weight you're carrying, but how big are you? Like height and weight?
I'm 6'8", 280.
6'8", 280. Oh,
I'm just kidding, dude. I'm kidding,
I was going to say, man, it doesn't look like the pictures, but
I'm 6'1", in between 175, 180.
So when you go out with the dogs, you said you don't put a whole lot of weight on. What are you carrying?
I carry the pack itself is probably 5 pounds, and then I carry a 30-pound weight, so it ends up being about 35 pounds, and that's enough for me. Where it's not really a big deal at all. It's kind of like if I get a phone call, I can take it. If the dog sees a squirrel and decides it's on, we got to kill something, I can react to that and not be too weighed down. If I was doing like a dedicated ruck, no dogs, like we're rucking, 45 pounds. I usually don't go over 50. I think that sometimes the benefits start to drop off after you get over 50 pounds. There's some military research where suggests don't ever go above a third of your body weight. The military has found that that's where they were looking at it from a lot of different ways, so it gets a little bit complicated, but they were basically looking at, okay, one, where do injuries seem to begin? Two, where is the load limit where these guys are useless in battle? And that tended to be about a third of your body weight, going above that. So I tell most people probably don't want to go above a third of your body weight. Of course, there are cases where you might, like when I had to pack out that caribou in Alaska. Like we're not going to cut that in half and do that walk twice. We're just taking the whole thing out, you know.
And when you're doing that, you're probably all on your back, as opposed to, I assume your normal ruck is one of the, front back weighted deals.
My normal ruck is just a backpack. So yeah, and there are differences. And the Walk with Weight book, because this is a question I get all the time.
Oh, I know you've got all the details. So folks who are listening, let's go get the book. It gives you all the details. I'm just asking some highlight ones.
Yeah, totally. There are differences in a weight vest versus a ruck, which I would define as the weight being on your back fully, like in a backpack.
Oh, okay.
There's some different things that happen. I think for most people, most of the time, a backpack is ideal. There are also vests where the majority of the load is more on your back than equally distributed. I think those can also be a good option. But yeah, so I'm mostly using the backpack.
I figured you were using the weight vest. Okay, I feel better because the one I'm doing with this 45, whether I'm doing a 25 or 45 pound Olympic weight, it's all on my back. Now it's tight to my back. I usually have it up fairly high, and I'm trying to pay attention to my posture. And right now, the most taxing thing is my shoulders. I haven't done it long enough to get past that, so my shoulders are feeling it. But I figure,
I would say do dead hangs. So hang from a pull-up bar.
Yeah.
Just go totally slack, except you're just hanging from that bar like you're dead. Hence the name dead hang. Do that for 30 seconds, work up to 60 seconds. That sort of decompresses the shoulders because your straps are pulling down. So if you're hanging, you're getting this sort of upward, and it just tends to stretch out a lot of things, and it can offset a lot of that discomfort.
Thank you.
So after your ruck, just literally hang for like 30 seconds. You can do it a couple times if you want, but that'll help.
I do pull-ups, but I'm just getting on there and doing pull-ups. I'm not sitting there hanging. So
just hang.
Okay. Excellent. But structurally, you're not seeing, I know you talked about back problems, that having it just on your back, I thought you were going to be an advocate more of the vest, like have it equally weighted, equally distributed. And even with the backpack, like mine doesn't really have not hip support, but like a big backpack, like what you've done, where you've got, what's it called? Where you've got some of the
hip belt. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think actually probably for backs, a backpack is better. And that's because it goes back to that core strength thing. So you don't tend to get the core strength benefits from a vest.
Yeah.
So when I wrote The Comfort Crisis and the stuff about rucking came out, people like to react without reading the actual book because we live on the internet. Yeah. So the book is pretty clear, probably don't go above 50 pounds for most people. I got a lot of military guys who were, said, well, you're an idiot because I hurt myself rucking, blah, blah, blah. But you have to realize the military is using loads that are like 100 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, if you decided to just pick up running and all you did is sprint, I can guarantee you're going to get injured in about 11 seconds down your road. If you decided to pick up weightlifting and you loaded the bar with a massive weight, you're probably going to get injured, right? It's all the dose makes the poison. And so when you keep the weights below 50 pounds, which is what the average person is going to do, the injury risk is about a little bit higher than that of walking. And no one gets injured walking.
Yeah.
So it's very safe. Safer than running, definitely. I'm sure you've probably seen some of the running injury data, which I will say is all over the place to like comically all over the place, but 20 to 79% of runners get injured every year.
Yeah.
And when you look at, they'll do studies on military injuries, and the rucking injuries tend to be the lowest, where running tends to be the highest.
Thus, what got me into the Born to Run book, because I was loving running and yet getting injured and seeing everybody else. And so started looking at my form and, of course, the shoes I'm wearing and whatnot. Man, Michael, I appreciate the time. I appreciate the focus. I'm sold. You sold me. It was your book, getting the galley copy that the agency sent me, that tipped me over. Okay, I'll try it. So, and I'm doing it. I'm only, whenever they sent that, I mean, I don't know if it's even been 2 months or so. And, appreciating the benefit significantly. I'm going to go out today. I'm going to have to put my yak tracks on with the snow, but I'm going to go out today.
Awesome.
I'll put a pack on. But as much as I value that, just the overall message of looking at our lives and, back to the comfort crisis and just these efficiencies and these technologies and doing things faster, and reading your book, I helped myself just kind of come back and look around and go, what am I doing? How can I do this better? And it's not just a physicality aspect for me. I'm looking at how can I be, I'm marrying it with how can I be more present in my life and take a deep breath and go out and hang the laundry and look at the birds and feel the breeze and just be there and get out of this fast-paced culture, which I have been in. I've been I think one of the worst to some degree. And so your book and your message and just the spirit of what you're doing, it's been a great catalyst and confirmation for me. So I'm really thankful for you.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. I'm glad to hear you're doing all that stuff. And it was really fun to chat. As you start to get into this thing, if you ever have questions, just shoot me a message. Happy to answer, happy to help. And if you ever find yourself in Vegas, hit me up. We'll throw on some packs. We'll go out into the desert. It'll be a good time.
Deal. I would much prefer that over Vegas clubbing. So thank you. I'll look you up.
There you go.
Michael, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for the conversation here. Again, that's Michael Easter. I really recommend his book, The Comfort Crisis. And then this book that we used as our focal point today is called Walk with Weight. It's brand new if you're hearing this episode right when it comes out. But Walk with Weight, the definitive guide to rucking. And again, I'm doing it myself. I'm carrying 45 pounds, which is actually at the higher end and probably not that necessary, but I inspire myself by carrying so much. So be it. Until next time, here's to you and me creating a better experience of our lives.
Yeah.